If I can't make a video for every individual story in Link's collection, Pretty Monsters, and I can't, I really can't, and you don't have time to watch them either, let me make one for the title story, the highly ambitious novelette or novella, Pretty Monsters, from which the book takes its title, and which is, I believe, is original to this collection, not previously published. It's 66 pages long. It is, um, it is 66 pages long. It is more formally ambitious than a lot of fantasy writers' whole novels, frankly. It's nesting two stories within each other. There are two interwoven stories, one of which a character is reading the other story in a book and actually not super taken with it. And it concludes in in a slightly different frame. It moves back from both stories to something else at the very end. Um, every sentence in Link Matters, the the first sentence, the world was still dark. Take that for everything it implies. Um, we have two stories about young women, teenage girls making bad mistakes. I mean, one of whom ages into early adulthood, and one of whom presumably does not. We have two different stories of teen girlhood. We have the kind of yearning for the distant, somewhat mysterious older boy, and if you can unravel some mysteries, that's fine. And on one level, what Link is doing is interrogating, subverting, taking apart a kind of horror romance narrative popularized especially by the Twilight books. um, if you look at the Twilight books and ask yourself, what would adults do here? Link has created a kind of like love object who speaks very, very plainly to Clementine, the protagonist, and like, no, I don't think having sex with a teenager would help me out much, and it's creepy. Good for him. Yes, it is. It is totally normal for adolescents to crush on somewhat older teenagers, older young adults, etc. People a little bit ahead of them because crushing is about working out what you want your love object to be like. It is totally not okay to go the other way. Um, meanwhile, Lee is part of a kind of standard girl initiation. They're going to initiate the Porcigony girls who seem to come from Central and Western Europe. If you don't see why this is a bad idea, keep reading. Ask yourself what fantasy or horror genre these two stories might have in common. You'll see why messing with these girls, keeping them out overnight without their parents' permission might be a very bad idea for everybody involved. If you want a clue here, Cabble's name, the love interest, is the surname of the early 20th century fantasy writer James Branch Cabell. He that's how I pronounce it. But Cabell is also itself Cabell is also one of the versions of the name of King Arthur's dog in the Arthur Legends. Same name as a famous fantasy novelist, same name as King Arthur's hound, his dog, his ferocious boarhound. Do with that as you like. And Link brings us through Link both manages to suspend judgment without suspending her adult intelligence. These kids are both girls, both Clementine and Lee, are developmentally appropriate, which means kind of stupid. Yeah, right? Hormone fuck, whatever. They still have a lot to learn. Nobody is born. Nobody is born. Here's the thing about young people: they can be immature. Yes, both Clementine and Lee are making mistakes that older versions of those characters are unlikely to make. They're making the mistakes that you learn and grow from. um, but also, we're invited to see how an adult looks at this. And, this book is from, how old was it? How old was a writer when this happened? I mean, um, Yeah, this is somebody. This is a novel written by someone in her this is a sorry, novella. This is a story written by someone in her late 30s. She does not just identify with Clementine or Lee. She understands why they're doing what they do. She understands why it's a stupid idea, and they're hopefully they should learn and grow from it. We end with a kind of meta theater where two girls are reading the stories together, put it down, and the girls disappear, and something else appears, and somewhere out there, the story awaits its end. Irresolution is is part of Link's technique. She doesn't want a story to close so entirely you feel like you've learned everything. You haven't. It's on to the next thing. The story still awaits its end.